Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the July 8th County Council meeting. Let's first start off by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. First off, Auditor's Financial Report. Jennifer?
Okay, so we started with a beginning balance of $7,996,572. You've granted additional appropriation requests in the amount of $3,500,736, and we've had miscellaneous expenditures to date of $26,773, leaving available for appropriation $4,469,063. You have requests before you today totaling $71,000 from the general fund. Revenue, we did settle property tax collections on the 27th of June. So you can see what was brought in for those line items. Other taxes were distributed as well. I did make a note here on financial institutions and commercial vehicle excise tax. Those came in quite a bit lower than expected. I have talked to the comptroller's office, and basically this is something they said they're going to talk about at fall conference, but their overall collections were significantly lower, so it's not anything related to us other than we have to base it on 3 different distributions, and 2 of those are known distributions and 1 is an estimate. And that 1 estimate was off quite a bit. So hope to know more about that a little bit later.
So Jennifer, we don't know if that will continue for the rest of the year or not?
It likely will.
It likely will be under.
Come in quite a bit less.
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
Might be something to the point that I revised the budget amount. So overall, if we look at the revenue with our property tax collection, we're at 55.3%. through 50% of the year. As far as fund balances, the only note I made here was that I've got the $3 million transfer from general fund to the self-insurance fund scheduled for July 21st. So you'll see that reflected on the next report. And that was all I had.
All right, any questions for Jennifer? Okay, Yadira, Treasurer's Report.
Good morning. We ended June with an account balance of $196,536,736.88. We brought in a total interest of $1,079,185.96. June's average interest rate was 4.58%, while the weighted average rate was 4.54%. As of June, the general fund has received $2.7 million in interest, or 62.5% of the total interest. With the first 6 months of the year completed, 56.2% of the expected interest revenue has been reached. And while I don't have a crystal ball on where rates will be, we do expect the Fed to hold rates steady for July, with the first cut to be in September. That's all I have.
All right, thank you.
Thank
Any
you.
questions from council for Yadira? All right, thank you. All right, any public comment on any of the agenda items today? Okay, hearing none. Now, public hearing on adoption of resolution designated an ERA for purpose of property tax abatement application for BioBond.
I'll make a motion that we approve resolution number 2025-14-CL.
Second.
I got a motion in place from Councilwoman Vernon, second from Councilman Murray. Good morning, Colin.
Hello, everyone. I'm Colin Hopkins. I'm the Economic Development Manager for Greater Lafayette Commerce. So just a reminder from last month, this is a 5-year graduated personal property tax abatement application. BioBond Adhesives plans to invest up to, or potentially more, than $2.8 million in personal property to help them expand their operations, and they hope to create at least 38 new FTEs at that location, which this tax abatement would definitely help with. I do have a company representative here if anyone has questions.
This is technically a public hearing, so you want to see if anybody else in the public has comments.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else in the audience have any comments? No, okay. All right, any questions from council? Just as a reminder, this is confirming the actual tax abatement for this company. All right. And we're good with?
We're supposed to.
Okay, all right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Okay, thank you. Next up, public hearing on request from Wabash Township for local income tax distribution. Before we get to this, Doug, if you want to kind of give an outline of what the process of this, that would be great for us.
Well, okay, so we're doing the best we can. The legislature changed the statute a little bit, and it gets a little confusing in that the process involves the Income Tax Council, which you're part of the, I think you guys all know, but the county council is part of the Income Tax Council, and then, so when the statute talks about hearings and so forth, it's not really, it's sort of worded as if it's just one entity having a hearing where, you know, you've got 3-4 different bodies doing it. But with that said, we think the statute changed to where if a township makes a request for a portion of public safety income tax dollars for fire purposes, at least, emergency purposes too, I believe. But whereas in the past they could make a request, you didn't have to have a hearing, you could just, you know, not take any action. The statute was changed to where you have to have a hearing, so that's what you're doing today. If you want to move forward, this is where we're kind of doing some guesswork, but I think you would have to propose a resolution, which would happen at the August meeting. You have to advertise for that as well. And I think you have to pass it before September. So in any case, what you're doing today is hearing the request. Whether you take further action on it is up to you. That's discretionary.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, so we have a presentation.
Madam President, I have a question for Doug, we don't mind.
Sure, go ahead.
If we choose to take no action on it, what would we just leave it at the public hearing and do nothing else?
I think so. The way it could come back around is that I believe the requests have been made to the other members of the Income Tax Council. So I think if the city of Lafayette or city of West Lafayette wanted to propose a resolution to the Income Tax Council to approve the request, then you would be required to hold a hearing based on their action.
All right, thank you.
And maybe I'm getting a little too in the weeds here, but it's not just the cities, they also have to do the townships, the towns, because they also have a vote, is that correct? Like
think-
Battleground and?
I think you're right. The reason I'm a little blurry on it is because I think you need 2 of the 3 big entities.
Right, to pass.
Although I suppose if a town, Jennifer, I don't know if you, I put you on the spot. I'm wondering, it might be the case that if a town proposed the resolution, that would trigger a requirement that you all consider the resolution they proposed, even though the town's votes are pretty minor in the course of things. I think that could still trigger your
Okay.
resolution consideration.
I agree with that. I think anybody can trigger it, but it's the number of votes that would matter.
Okay. Any other questions for Doug on the process? All right, with that, then Anhel, if you want to give your presentation.
All right. Well, good morning to council members here. I guess I'll start by saying we like to keep things interesting at Wabash Township, so sorry for the learning curve here on a new process. So I'm Angel Valentin. I'm the township trustee. Thank you for the opportunity to present our request here for public safety lit distribution for Wabash Township. So this request is, I'm trying to get the, sorry, maybe here. No, it's not letting me scroll. It's like kind of stuck. Okay, yeah. I'll give you sorry. All right. So this request this year is really a culmination of a 3-year process. As many of you folks are aware, over the last couple of years, we've had conversations with different members of the county council, as well as some of the commissioners, Lafayette and West Lafayette elected officials as well. So in this presentation, we're hoping to share a little bit about our understanding of public safety lit as we are right now, what the situation is countywide, but then also what the township's fire department situation is currently, the growth that we're looking to experience, and then what that means for us, especially when it comes to capital expenditures. So I'm not going to go too into the weeds with details on numbers, et cetera, but I have some data points for growth and whatnot, which are some of the biggest pieces we have or are facing. So we're requesting that $600,000 that we mentioned there. The last couple of years, the primary piece that we had requested towards was the radio equipment upgrade. That's going to be state mandated here coming soon for fire departments.
So the $600,000 that you're requesting, when you say you want it out of the public lit safety, is that just out of the county share, or is that from all of the cities, everything?
Yes, that's a good question. It comes from the top, so it doesn't come from any particular entity. So if you were to appropriate it, it gets removed first. So like, let's say that, and I have a little bit on collections later, but right now our collections are about $12 million between the certified shares as well as the supplementals for the county. And so if you were to adopt a distribution of 600,000 or whatever number that be, it doesn't have to be that full amount. Then it would come from the top, and it would essentially, it would be a portion of that would essentially come from the shares that you would have had. A portion of it would come from the shares that Lafayette or West Lafayette would have received, as well as the different towns as well. So that's how that would flow out. So it's not hitting the county exclusively if that process plays out. So our primary pieces for the request are the radio upgrade as well as scheduled air pack system replacement. Those are the two biggest priorities. It's our immediate piece. I'm going to also go into a little bit more depth about a lot of the bigger expenditures that we have coming down the pipe as our township continues to grow. So going over to the public safety lit, I think that Doug made a good description of that. There's essentially 3 members that are the primary members of the local income tax council. So it's you folks, Lafayette and West Lafayette. And mathematically, the town's weight votes don't count mathematically, really, at the end of the day. It doesn't affect the passage of an ordinance or a resolution. And so when the council adopted the public safety lit rate, you guys established it at 0.18%, and that rate has remained unchanged since then. And so for townships to be able to receive funds at any point, after we make a request, 2 of the entities would have to approve it. So going into public safety lit revenue, that's the portion I highlighted there. We're receiving currently about $12 million between supplemental and the certified shares of the public safety lit. And that's kind of the breakdown as to how much goes to each of the major 3 municipalities as well as the small incorporated municipalities. So that's the overall lifetime receipts and expenditures and cash balances that are forecasted for the public safety lit funds. So over the course of the 2020 to 2025 period, the county as a whole has collected will collect $58 million overall. And we are expecting between all the different entities to have about a $16 million cash balance at the end of 2025. I may have missed any small additional appropriations that were made, but I haven't seen any major ones. And then for us, just to note there, for us, part of what's important for that is our residents in the unincorporated area have contributed about $5.8 million as a conservative estimate as to how much has been contributed by the unincorporated area residents. And I know that that's not the fault of this body, but the way that it was set up in state law, it didn't make townships an automatic recipient, right? And I think that this process and allowing us to be able to request it starts to correct a little bit of that oversight. I know that this money has been a blessing for the county as well as the cities in being able to get closer to caught up when it comes to staffing and capital expenditure purchases. Unfortunately, townships haven't had that same benefit because we weren't incorporated into the formula from the beginning. But I think that there's work that could be done, and I'm hoping to be able to highlight here why it's so important for us as we grow and become a major public safety provider in the community. So, here I'm getting into the portion of our fire department, how we operate. We have about 21,000 residents that are currently in the unincorporated area based on the last census. We cover about 40 square miles of territory. The area in purple is our township boundaries, and then the area in green is the Shelby Township area that we are contracted to provide services for. Our primary response is out of Station 1, which is the station in red in the purple area. And that's where our staff is located. We also have a second station, which is on Newman Road. That's the one on the southern part there that's in blue. That area is primarily, that building is currently primarily an auxiliary storage facility. That's not, the department doesn't actively operate out of it. We have mutual aid agreements with West Lafayette, with Purdue University, and then we've also built in Tippecanoe Township into our automatic mutual aid process as well. Just a quick overview of apparatuses. So we have fire departments do two pieces, medical and fire, as well as hazardous materials, et cetera, gas leaks. When it comes to the medical side, we have two primary response apparatuses. We have Medic 605, which is our new ambulance that we recently purchased to be able to improve when it comes to transport times and time to get to scene for the residents in our unincorporated part, which is some of the areas that are furthest from hospitals right now. So. And then we have Rescue 607, which allows us to be on a second call simultaneously. And then we also have a couple of fire engines, 3 apparatuses, including a ladder, and then a tanker and a brush rig that's able to respond to any grass fires in the more rural parts of our township. The next part here is our staffing. And I know that over the last couple of years since we took office, we've been focused on trying to increase our staffing levels. So right now we have 12 shift suppression, or are going to have 12 shift suppression firefighters by the end of the year. They're divided into 3 shifts of 4 firefighters. We also have 3 administrative employees, including the fire chief, deputy chief, and EMS division chief. We have 23 volunteers. They have a range of certifications both on the fire and the EMS side. Now going on to staffing and run volume here, I'm going to try and highlight just why our growth has been so important when it comes to our staffing levels. So you can see there the trend for the run volume growth from when I took office in 22 to current year. So right now, the 1750 is an underestimate of where we are currently tracking to be. And then we're anticipating continued growth over the next coming year. So over that time frame, we've increased the number of firefighters on shift, so career firefighters, from 1 firefighter in 2022 to 4 firefighters in 2025. Now, a key metric that we also use to look at how much exertion or workload our firefighters are facing is that run per firefighters on shift number. It's calculated a few different ways, but essentially it's run volume divided by firefighters per shift. And so we've been trying to decrease that number, which also means that there's an improvement in service, et cetera. We're still a little bit behind West Lafayette and Lafayette, as you can see in the next slide here. We are still running about twice as many runs per firefighter on shift, and so that showcases why we're still needing to keep moving forward in the hiring process. That's why next year we're looking to go to 5 firefighters and 1 paramedic on shift as well.
Angel, how come the number of runs is going up so much? I know the population is increasing, but it seems like it's going up faster than the population, or am I wrong about that?
It's a combination of different pieces. So there's been, there was a change in dispatch processes We had traditionally, our fire department had not responded to all of the runs, for example, in some of our service areas of retirement homes, et cetera. So that's a piece of it. But a part of it is that we are already seeing some of the growth. Like, for example, Wabash Lofts is an area that got developed off of, what's the name of that street? Paramount Drive in West Lafayette. And that area, for example, has double occupancy because Purdue is able to, when they are master leasing an apartment, they're able to use double occupancy. And so you have twice the number of residents in portions of that apartment complex that it was originally designed for, intended for. So that's one piece of it. But it's just part of the growth. We've had already Auburn Meadows developed. We've had, we're seeing development continuing in the Stonehenge subdivision, et cetera. So we've had a few areas where we've seen that growth already taking place. But you're right, I'm actually going to get to highlighting that we haven't actually seen our growth piece yet. That's just the beginning of that growth going forward.
So can you say more about the service areas that you weren't serving before, the nursing homes? I'm not sure I followed that.
Yeah, so it was primarily IVH and
IVH?
Indiana Veterans Home, sorry.
Okay.
Indiana Veterans Home, as well as, remind me the name of the other? Heritage Healthcare Facility that's on Soldiers Home Road. We historically have been, EMS only have been primarily being provided by Ts, et cetera. And so as we've added more staff, we're able to respond and be able to begin providing care on scene. So that's been portions of our.
So we've been
increase.
taking over some responsibilities that T's had in the past?
We've been
Some
taking
calls?
responsibilities that the Township Fire Department should have had in the past.
Okay, thank you.
When it comes to that run volume, yeah. And then the other piece there, so you can see the percentage of our run volume. So our run volume is already at 50% of West Lafayette's total run volume, and we're trending upwards of that, like we mentioned. You can see LFD's run volume as well there, and we're expected here in 2025 to have over a fifth of their response run volume, right? And for comparisons, we're operating out of one house. West Lafayette is operating out of 3 houses, and Lafayette is operating out of 6 at the moment. When it comes to our townships, territories, and volunteer fire departments, I think that gives you an idea about how busy we are as well compared to the other departments in the community. So we're the largest one of them. Our run volume is essentially the addition of Wea Township, which is has 3 firefighters per shift right now, and then Tippecanoe Township, which currently relies exclusively on volunteer firefighters. But just a note for the rest of those folks are also expected to respond when the bell goes off, the same as a career firefighter does or career fire department does, right? And with the exception of Shadeland right now, the rest of them don't currently receive funding from Public Safety Lit. I know that this is a process and this is step 1 if we're talking about baby steps, but the possibility of being able to support some of the critical efforts that some of these folks carry out is something that I look forward from at our position at the township level. So going on to the next portion here, the explosive growth, starting to talk here about the big reason why we're here. So between 2011 and 2020, we had relatively mild population growth of 20% for our service area. And then now from 2020 to the early 2030s, we are expecting a 55% increase in population. Now, I want to state very clearly that we're actually happy and excited about this. As you guys know, our county has had a lack of housing supply that we've been working to fill up. And so a lot of those developments right now are coming in our area. That's where a lot of the economic development is also taking place. So we're excited about that. But we need to be able to, on the fire department side, to be ready to provide services for those residents as they're moving into the community. We can't wait until after they're here to be able to do that, right? So going into the units and residents added, to Lisa's point, we haven't really began to see the growth in its entirety, right? I color-coded that, and so the areas that are in blue, Auburn Meadows, Wabash Lofts, the Vibe, are some of the few areas that have already been fully developed of our expected growth in this decade. The areas in yellow are partially occupied, so they're still housed, so they're subdivisions, they're getting built out and folks are moving in, but it's not fully occupied just yet. And then the areas in orange are the areas where there are no residents right now that we're expecting that we will need to be serving here in the next few years. So that includes Estridge or Millbrook subdivision, which just went through APC recently, the W, which also has gone through APC, West Heights, which is almost ready, Camp Creek, which hasn't gone yet through APC, but there's been conversations about tax abatements, et cetera, or not, TIF districts, excuse me. And then the Enclave on Klondike, which I believe is on the agenda for this month at APC. And all in all, that means that we've only seen 17% of our growth. Of those 4,850 units, only about 800 are already in. On our population side, it means that just shy of 2,000 out of this expected 12,000 people at max are here in our community. So we're still expecting a really big boom in population here in the next couple of years, and that's what we're trying to be proactive and prepare for. What that means for us, we have to increase staffing, we have to be looking at a potential northern station, and we have to do equipment investments. So when it comes to our buildings, we have 2 buildings that we are planning for. One of them, the Township Trustee's Office, we're looking to build a separate building because we don't have the adequate space for office and whatnot. And that building is going to include additional bays for apparatuses, specialized equipment trailers for our fire department. It's also going to house space for our inspector team. As I mentioned, we're having a lot of growth, so there's a lot of need for inspections and whatnot going forward. As well as space for grant-funded mobile integrated health program that's being operated by the fire department. And then on top of that, we're also looking at a new station on the northern portion of our township. What that's going to do is improve our distribution of our run volume. It's also going to provide an ability to respond faster, both for transports time with our new ambulance, but also fire responses, medical responses in general. We need to be able to respond faster, and we want to be able to ensure that our residents are getting the services that they deserve. We also want to be able to continue to operate and interoperate with other departments, and that new station allows us to also be able to work more closely with West Lafayette, Tippecanoe Township, et cetera. Now, we don't have a location set for that, but that's part of what we're looking at, doing a feasibility study in the coming year or so. Apparatuses. So I know that it seems, I didn't put values on those in the presentation, but I know that I shared the report with of our expected costs and whatnot. So those purchases are expensive. The ladder is expected to be somewhere in the $2 to $3 million range. Our tanker is probably going to be just shy of $1 million or around $1 million. Our brush truck is a little bit cheaper, in the $500,000 to $600,000 range. For us, we have a replacement schedule for our apparatuses, and although we could be tempted to try to stretch out the life of them now, given that we are looking at bringing on a second station, we're actually needing to do the opposite, which is keep with our replacement schedule to extend the life of these apparatuses to make sure that when we have a second station, that these engines that would become our reserve engines in the meantime are the new frontline apparatuses at that second station, essentially extending the lifespan of it and trying to reduce the immediate burden to the taxpayer, right? So we don't want to have to go and buy 2 trucks at once. That's a big impact on residents' tax bills. So that we're trying to make sure that we're being proactive and smart about our apparatus purchases. So those are some of the bigger pieces, and those are working towards planning through debt services, et cetera, cash reserves that we have a portion of will help down payments, et cetera. But then when it comes to additional critical capital outlays, we have critical funding priorities, including our radio upgrade that I mentioned, that's going to cost us about $300,000. We have air pack replacement. That's the breathing system that our folks use to be able to get into a building when there's a fire or whatnot. All of that costs us significantly more than it would some of a department that we're fully career, for example, because we're relying on volunteer and career firefighters. So we have to make sure that we're outfitting both of those segments of our folks. We're also looking at turnout gear, same thing, that's expensive for that same reason. But then we're also looking at buying a second Lucas device and a monitor. Those are relatively minor expenses, but are other of our important critical capital outlays coming here in the next couple of years. Now, and I know that folks in this council are very familiar with the impact of SB 1 or Senate Enrolled Act 1. For Wabash Township, we're looking at a reduction in the short term of $150,000 to $250,000 on the fire operating fund. That's about a 6 to 10% cut. Now, long-term, we expect that number to go down a little bit as these apartments and units go into place, as they'll essentially increase the certified net assessed value and reduce the circuit breaker gaps that we have. And then on the cumulative fire fund, which is a fund that is for townships to be able to do capital investments, although it wasn't estimated in the SB1 fiscal note, it is a rate-driven fund. So as our certified net assessed value goes down, we're going to be seeing a reduction in actual revenue being brought in for these critical capital expenses. So I talked a lot, I know that. We have, but I wanted to summarize really what our key points here in support of our requests are. Number one, we have this fast growth, which is a blessing for the county, but a challenge for the township. We want to make sure that we are able to meet the needs of our residents and to be able to become, continue being a leading public safety provider for the county. That means necessary that we have to undertake capital expenses, like I just mentioned, and staffing also. The reason I didn't highlight staff as much is because staff is something that we can continue to build up closer to the time when folks are moving in, and as we're seeing those population moving into our community. But capital outlays is a process, as you know, that takes years, and so that's our current priority in that sense. And then we have the impact of SB1 coming in. And then lastly, like I mentioned at the beginning, I think that this is an opportunity to incorporate, especially starting with Wabash Township, township fire departments and providers in the rural areas into the public safety lit process. And then in the new SB1, the potential fire and EMS lit, or whatever shape that takes after modifications in the next coming sessions as well. So. That's my presentation, but both myself and my fire chief are available here if you guys have any questions or anything like that. Both now and after, we'll be around for a little bit. So.
All right, thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
I do have a quick question. Is there, this is obviously a huge impact. Is there other ways or means that you have thought about in obtaining more funding other than this?
So, so there's a couple pieces. So one, and I'm glad you brought it up. As I was going through the presentation, I didn't highlight it. There's a couple of federal grants that are available that are highly competitive. Over the last few years, we've repeatedly applied for those. We haven't gotten it yet, but the only way that you are guaranteed not to get it is by not applying. So we're continuing to focus heavily on those efforts with the SAFER grant, which is a staffing-focused grant for firefighters, and then there's the AFG grant, which is an equipment-focused grant. And so over the last few years, we've applied for grant funding through that source. There's a couple other opportunities. One of them, which we're in the beginning process of having conversations about, is the potential of becoming a fire territory with an adjoining municipality. That won't necessarily explicitly increase the funding for capital outlays, although you can always, similar to what was discussed last time you were here, you can always use the 400 categories out of your operating fund. It's just that as municipalities, we've kind of moved away from that, but that is a possibility as well. And we're actively exploring that because as we seek to continue moving into this future where we're seeing all of this growth, we are going to need to have a fire department that looks a lot more like West Lafayette's or Lafayette's than it does some of our smaller townships and rural fire departments. And so the territory allows us to kind of reset that levy rate. And so that's one possibility that we're discussing into the future. Obviously, that's based on taxpayer funds as well. But yeah, those are the two primary sources that we have to be able to increase our revenue at this juncture: grant funding and then moving to a fire territory structure.
And have you maxed out your levy rate?
We
In
will
the
this
township?
year. We were at 92% of the levy this year. So we went from having a levy of 2 cents per $100 of assessed value to this year we're going to be about 14, 15 cents. That's for our operating fund. We've always been maxed out on the fund that's specifically for capital purposes, and that's maxed out at 0.0333, so 3.3 cents per $100 of assessed value. And this year we are maxing that out. We've ramped up rapidly to be able, but we didn't want to immediately start taxing our taxpayers at the highest level when it would take time for us to build up our staffing. But over the course of 3 years, we really have gotten to the point where our next budget is going to max out all of our levies. Yeah.
Thinking back a couple years ago, before you purchased your new ambulance, knowing the radio need was there, what was the thought process from a capital outlay standpoint? Okay, we have this mandate for the radios, we have to move over, but we're going to spend, I think it was $450,000, I think when I saw your budget on this new ambulance, knowing the radios would cost roughly $600,000.
300, but yes.
300, well, your request is $600,000 collective. If you chose not to buy the ambulance and the T's was continuing to operate those areas that you mentioned earlier, what would be the ramifications if you didn't buy the ambulance? I know it would lessen your response time to service the township residents, but I'm trying to think from a fiscal standpoint.
Yeah.
You know, you have this expense and then you spend
No, yeah, no,
that and more.
that's a good point. So part of the reason why we did decide to go forward with the ambulance purchase is that we do anticipate it to be maybe not immediately this year, but in the coming year or two, we do anticipate it to be revenue positive. That wasn't the reason why we jumped in to do it, but when we saw the need that our residents have been asking us about and whatnot, we did move in that direction. Now, I do want to stress that we're trying to continue to have a really good relationship with T's and whatnot, but we know that the radio upgrade is expected to take place, and it's been pushed back. We anticipate that it'll go into effect next year in 2026, and we wanted to be able to start providing ambulance service faster to our residents. So, you know, it really is, and I'll be frank, you know, like if we have to go out and do it, we'll be able to do it. It just means that 2-3 years down the line, the rate that we will do for debt service replacement will be higher. And so this is just one tool, same as for the county and the cities, to be able to get closer to caught up. It's not necessarily that we can't at all do a radio equipment, is that we have the radio equipment and the
breathing apparatuses.
And the breathing apparatuses, and on top of that, we're looking at 10 million total in expenses plus when it comes to our equipment and stations, so.
Okay, I just know I work in the schools and.
No, of course, yeah.
The fiscal impacts of the changes are immense, and
Yes.
unfortunately, hard decisions have to be made, and services are being cut, and staffing's being, not replaced, and
Yep.
I think in government collectively, across the entire state, those decisions are happening. Governor Braun ordered, 5% budget cuts across all departments.
Yep.
And then here you are asking for more, right, than your budget. So I'm just trying to think, how do we collectively make the best
course,
informed
yeah.
decisions as possible?
No, and I think that to highlight that, I would highlight that our department really has, it's not that we are going and asking for the moon and the stars. We're trying to get closer to where our residents need us to be. It doesn't get us to exactly where our residents need us to be, even with this. It gets us closer to it. When we are having response times, right? You were talking about a big incident, whatnot. Right now, with our staffing, we're able to roll out one truck with our career firefighters, and then we're reliant on volunteers after that. That's different than if you were in the city limits or West Lafayette. But I think our residents have given us a mandate to make sure that we are providing the best quality fire service that we can. And I recognize, although it wasn't incorporated, townships weren't incorporated from the get-go. Townships, including ours, provide a critical public safety service to our community. And it's just been a little bit difficult to watch also to see that level of funding be available, but townships be perpetually locked out of it. And I think it's critical that we're moving in a direction where not only do you potentially provide funding, but also you set expectations for what that fire service looks in your service areas, not just in city limits, but throughout the county. That's not money that comes without strings attached. If you're going to come back to do another request, then the county, I'm sure, and the county council would expect that you're doing your due diligence on fiscal practices in your investments and your staffing and your run volumes and your response times, et cetera. And I think that that's something that we will be able to demonstrate, that we're moving in that direction that serves our residents. So
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? All right, so with this being a public hearing, any comments, questions from the public? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So what at this point?
It depends if you want to move forward or not. I think I mean, what would have to happen to move forward is introduction of a county council resolution for the income tax council. And normally, that wouldn't require a lot of advanced planning because, any member can kind of introduce a resolution at the next hearing. The issue is that if you want to adopt that, you have to advertise for it. So I think, normally you guys kind of do this by consensus, but I think technically the presiding officer sets the agenda, so you could order advertisement and a resolution. Or I think by a majority vote, the council could ask you to move forward, and I think you'd probably, I'm not sure about the parliamentary procedure on that, but I think you'd probably be obliged to move forward if there was a majority vote asking you to do so.
Okay. What's the desire of the council?
So some of this information is the first time I've seen it, so I'm not ready to make any decisions.
Okay.
I can say that. The handout we got today.
I didn't want to interrupt the presentation, but I do have the numbers of the impact to the entities if this were to have been approved for 2025. So, he had pointed out what the total amount of, public safety was $10,512,000. If you took off 600,000 of that, then over here is the impact to the units. So for Tippecanoe County, it would be 278,000. And then I think this is Lafayette would be the 239,000, West Lafayette 72,000, and so on. So, that's something I can share with you, but I did go ahead and calculate it in case the question was asked and Lisa asked it. So.
Jennifer, those are townships underneath that, like the 841, 28, 39?
No, I'm sorry, towns.
Towns, okay.
Townships don't receive, that's the question.
And I guess maybe this is another question for Angel. What is your proposal as far as the other townships? If we were to give $600,000 to Wabash, what about Tippecanoe? What about Wea? What about Shadeland? They all have, most of them have fire departments of some sort.
So by statute, the process is that they had to apply prior to July 1st for
Okay.
a distribution from the public safety lit. So you wouldn't be obligated by any measure to do something this year, but I would anticipate, just being frank, that if the council did proceed in moving to provide some portion to Wabash Township, that you probably would get more requests next year.
Okay.
I think understandably so. One potential, I've mentioned it in the past when we've had individual discussions. One option is going the slight cut side. There's also the potential for doing a very slight increase in the tax rate, which I know is a conversation. It's not something that you decide willy-nilly. If you, for example, did a 1 cent increase, that would cover essentially most of this loss, if you will, to those, and I say 1 basis point is what I mean, to 0.19. That would cover most of the loss for this revenue, and it would have an impact of $10 a year on a household making $100,000. So that's one possibility. But then the other option would be doing this a small reduction. Now, I know that reductions are hard. You guys, even if you have money saved at the moment, I know that you have anticipations and plans for what you hope to be able to utilize that funding for. I know that the sheriff does as well. And then, so one potential possibility is doing a small increase and saying, we're not going to give anybody more than the equivalent of 1 cent or 1 basis point or 2 basis points of the revenue that we're going to be receiving in the next year, and cap it at that. And you could potentially do it based on population, like the new SB1 sets up so that it's compliant kind of with the new process, so that there's already an expectation and a process for what goes forward after the changeover into the new world in 2028. So that's one possibility, or you could decide that it's merit-based and continue to do it, listening to every presentation and determining if those areas have a need and are providing the service to the level of that you expect out of our community's service providers. So did that answer your question, Lisa?
I would just like to add, the presentation was awesome. I think it's very well thought out. He's planning for the future, and the true need is there. So I applaud you and your team and everything you've done, and I would be ready to move forward and approve it.
Do you have a proposal where we take the money from then, Barry?
I believe our excess and what we have in our funds is quite adequate for the amount that would be charged to the county. And I think the other entities, West Lafayette and Lafayette, would do the same. And I'd hope that they would see the residents of Wabash Township. There are members, there are county members and our residents and our citizens. And this is a very well responsible plan to plan for the future and start going to the direction of best serving them.
I will say the public safety lit goes away in 2 years with the Senate Bill 1 changes. So, we talk planning for the future. I think that's what the county council has historically done a great job of, to get to where the reserves are now and to where we are fiscally with the credit rating and all those things. As much as I understand and the need is there, I cannot support this.
And I will totally agree. I mean, great presentation. I understand the needs there. We all have needs, each of the different entities. And I think right now, we have to all be creative. We know what's coming down, but I'm just not ready to move forward at this time.
Yeah, I'm pretty torn. I agree with a lot of actually what Barry said. I mean, I think it's very well laid out that it's a clear need. Especially looking at things like run volume in comparison to what LFD and WLFD get to do. Ben's making a really good point as well about how that's going to change in 2 years. But personally, I'm okay with moving forward on it and getting creative in 2 years from now to fix that problem as it arises.
So if we are moving forward, there needs to be a motion in place for that, correct?
I mean, just listening to how this is going, I think yes. I mean, it sounds like you got a motion and a second to move forward. I
Okay.
mean, you guys might want to formalize that, but then, vote on whether you do or don't. Just to be clear, I think you have the authority to move forward on your own just because you're the president of the council, but.
Right. Yeah, and one of the things that we've put in place to, in anticipation of the changes that's going to happen with LIT, with SB1, for budget, we put together a committee to talk about all these things because I think there's going to be a lot more need in the future for sure as this community continues to grow when it comes to public safety. The presentation was great. And I totally understand and get everything that you're saying, and it's definitely a need. Me personally, I'm not ready to move forward with a vote like this, just because of some of the unknowns when it comes to LIT and with all the changes happening within the next 2 years. I think this time next year, we'll definitely have a better idea, and with the committee we've put together, we'll be able to plan for that. With the hopes that we can bring in the funding in the townships and have a better plan moving forward. So at this time, I would say not moving forward with this request.
I guess the question I have then, Jody, respectfully giving her position, could I make the motion, get a second, and then we have a vote?
I think you could. I mean,
Okay.
I'd like to go ahead and make the motion that we approve this and move forward as presented.
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion in place from Councilman Richards, second from Councilman Carson. Any last questions, comments? All right.
Last comment I'd like to make is, again, we need to be able to fulfill the needs, the true needs that's there for the safety of the citizens of our community, and we have the resources, so why delay it? Let's be a little bit more proactive and get it done.
I would also just add, and Doug, correct me if I'm wrong, but, we move forward on this, we can still vote no in the next month's meeting, correct? And so we would still be able to deliberate and go over these issues further?
Yeah, this isn't a motion to approve the request. It's a motion to introduce the resolution at the next meeting.
And also, correct me if I'm wrong, like, if we want to do it this year for next year, we have to approve it now, right, because of that timeline?
Yeah, if you want the money from the 2026 revenues, it
Yeah.
has to be approved before September 1st.
Right, okay.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Got that? All right, thank you. All right, moving forward with the consent agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
All right, I have a motion in place from Councilwoman Vernon, second from Councilman Murray. Any questions? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. All right, additional appropriations, Superior Court 3.
I'll make a motion that we approve the additional appropriations Superior Court 3 in the amount of $35,000 for pauper attorney.
Second.
I have a motion in place from Councilwoman Vernon, second from Councilman Murray. Any comments?
Judge Graham.
Good morning.
I'm here to answer questions if you have any, but you get this much space on the appropriation form, so I did send an email with some more details to my council reps.
A lot more details, actually.
A lot
Judge.
more details, yeah, yeah. And since that email address, we're now not holding just a $900 bill, but we're about $2,000 now holding to pay, so we're, if we make it with an additional $35,000, I'll be astonished, so I might be back at the tail end of the year, but we're doing the best we can.
Okay.
Questions? If
No.
any?
Thank you.
All right.
Oh, am I supposed to sign this?
You're good.
Okay.
You're fine.
Great.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Superior Court 7.
I make a motion to approve the appropriation of the general funds in the amount of $13,000.
Second.
Motion in place from Councilwoman Dolam, second from Councilman Richard. Any comments?
So this is similar to what we've been seeing all year in the courts and just what Judge Graham talked about, higher than expected pauper attorney fees, and then also mental health fees being higher for the evaluations. I can't think of the term all of a sudden, but the mental health evaluations for stability.
Any questions from council? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. CASA.
I'll make a motion that we approve the CASA request for GAL/CISA Fund 1213 appropriation in the amount of $3,915.
Second.
Motion in place from Councilwoman Vernon, second from Councilman Murray. Any comments?
This is just their third round of grant funding.
All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. TIMA.
Make a motion, we approve TEMA Member Safety Fund 9124 grant appropriation in the amount of $5,000.
Second.
Motion in place from Councilman Murray, second from Councilwoman Vernon. Any comments?
Jeff, you want to come
Yeah.
give the 30-second deal on this?
Good morning. This is year 3, I believe. This $5,000 from Duke. They give it out for emergency management, public safety, for various things. So that's what this is from.
All right, great.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Highway.
Make a motion, we approve the Motor Vehicle Highway Restricted Fund 1173 appropriation in the amount of $850,000.
Second.
Motion in place from Councilman Murray, second from Councilwoman Vernon. Comments?
Good morning. Stu is across the river doing a presentation at Purdue, so I'm covering for him. This past winter was particularly hard on our roads, not necessarily because of snow and ice, but because of freeze and thaw. And we had a number of road sections that just basically imploded, and those were sections that we had not, that were on our long-term list of resurfacing and reconstruction, but had to be pushed up because of the very rough winter.
Okay, any questions from council? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Area plan.
Make a motion, we approve the general fund appropriation in the amount of $23,000.
Second.
Motion in place from Councilman Murray, second from Councilwoman Vernon. Good morning.
Good morning. Well, APC is in kind of new territory this year. We had our zoning enforcement inspector begin in February, and she's becoming very popular with the citizens of Tippecanoe County. And so our more robust abilities to look into and investigate zoning enforcement cases ultimately increases the caseload, and inevitably, if we have someone that is just unwilling to comply, we get into legal territory, and we're sort of left with no choice. Very reluctant to go there. It's costly. When we try fines, property liens, but when someone just pays the lien and continues to violate, we're kind of left there. So we're currently prosecuting 3 cases. That'll likely be all we'll be facing this year. And that has dramatically increased our legal budget need. And so that's the request for this. And we believe this amount hopefully will get us through the balance of the year. This is a bit of a learning year for us now that we have this, again, robust capacity for zoning enforcement. Excuse me. But we're hopeful that this will get us through to the end. And then this has given us fodder for, obviously, this year's summer budgets discussions as well. So we'll make sure we get the number right, so.
Brian, can you say like what kind of violations they're doing? I'm just more curious.
The vast majority of them fall under the zoning defined term of junkyard.
Okay.
So people with essentially junked properties, oftentimes that corresponds with dilapidated structures, and so we'll team up with the building commission folks to target that. So that's the vast majority of them out there.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from council? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Health Department.
Make a motion, we approve the salary statement for the community health case manager, comma 4.
Second.
Motion placed from Councilman Murray, second from Councilman Carson.
Good morning. This is eliminating actually a PAT 4 and a PAT 3 position regarding fetal infant mortality, and we're asking to refund the community health case manager to abstract fetal infant death cases, which I did announce yesterday that since the 1900s, the state of Indiana had a decrease. That was amazing news.
That is
As
amazing
did Tippecanoe
news.
County, correct?
No, it's
No.
the state of Indiana.
State, okay.
So Tippecanoe County just holds the district case manager, which she's the best in the county, or in the state. She is, so, yeah. But I'm asking to eliminate those 2 positions and just refund the case manager a COMOP 4.
Okay, and this has been approved by Personnel Committee and the Commissioners
Yep,
as well.
610 Personnel Committee, 616 Commissioners.
Yep. All right. Any questions from council? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Sheriff.
Make a motion, we approve the inmate medical copay fund 4719 appropriation in the amount of $80,000.
Second.
I have a motion in place from Councilman Murray, second from Councilwoman Vernon. Good morning, Chair.
So what this is one of our funds. I do not recall ever coming before you since I've been in office to ask for any funds from this, but it builds over time. It is things that inmates can purchase, like aspirin and things that, obviously, if they go see the doctor, they get those things, but they can buy them off commissary. Those are deposited into this account, and what we're asking for is to move 80,000 of it so we can pay medical bills, because the medical bills are just astronomical.
Okay. Any questions from council? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you,
Thank you.
Sheriff. All right, committee reports. Unfinished business. New business? Commissioner FYI, Commissioner Byers. Good morning.
Really not much to bring to you. July 18th, Queen Contest at the fair. You'll probably all get an invitation to come watch if you wish. So from 18th to 25th, this is a county fair. I was out there yesterday, and they're starting to put it together. That's really the only thing.
Okay, thank you. Public comment. We have some guests. Good morning.
Good morning. As Commissioner Byers said, we are we are in fair mode, prep mode. Our pre-fair judging will start on Friday and go through next Thursday, and then the animals start coming in, and then the big fair starts next Friday, one going through the 26th. So we took just a second out of that prep time because I wanted to introduce 3 of our summer 4-H interns to you. Guys, if you'll just say who you are and maybe where you're from and where you're going to school, okay?
Hi guys, I'm Lane Shepard. I'm from West Point, Indiana, and I'm currently a junior at Huntington University up north, studying ag marketing. So, yeah.
Good morning, Council. My name is Ella Carlson. I'm actually from Westfield, about an hour south of here, but I was a 10-year 4-H member here in this county. I'll be a sophomore this fall at Oklahoma State, where I'm a double major in ag comm and ag education.
Good morning. My name is Aurelia Mendieta, and I am originally from Frankfurt. I am an upcoming junior at Purdue University, and I'm studying family science with 2 minors, one in Spanish and another in Latin American and Latino studies. Aside from being a full-time student, I'm also a preschool teacher assistant.
Wonderful. Thank you. Welcome. All right, next meeting is August 12th, and then shortly after that, we will be having budget hearings. Oh, sorry, come on up.
Didn't want to, that's a hard act to follow there. Great news, great news. Thank you for a few moments to speak. My name is Kenny McClary. I'm at 942 Chepstow Lane, West Lafayette, Indiana. That's in Shelby Township. I'm a 34-year member, representative of Shelby Township. I'm here as president of the Tippecanoe County Residents Against Utility Scale Solar. This group is opposed to the Rainbow Trout Solar Project, which is now scheduled for a special exception request before the Tippecanoe County Board of Zoning Appeals on August 27th regarding a 1,791-acre utility-scale solar facility which would be built on prime farmland located in Shelby Township. Our group is not an anti-solar energy group. We're not an anti-renewable energy group. We're opposed to this project because it will take prime farmland out of production for over 2 generations. It will be built within 50 feet of adjacent property owners under current county ordinances. Over 100 residences live within a quarter mile of this project. Another 100 residents live within a half a mile of the facility. The county now has in place a moratorium on utility-scale solar projects to place a pause on approvals to allow the county to revisit and revise where necessary the solar ordinances needed to protect all county citizens from the negative impacts of these industrial-scale facilities. In doing so, Tippecanoe County has joined other counties across the state to hit the pause button and ensure the proper ordinance guardrails are in place to protect homeowners, cooperating property owners, county infrastructure, our farm services community, the environment, and public safety from harm. However, the Rainbow Trout Project was hurriedly filed by its developers immediately before the moratorium. So this project will need to be stopped by presenting a sound case for denial at the BZA hearing. Our current county ordinances will have to be utilized. I would like to extend an invitation today to each of you on the county council to come out and see for yourselves how this project will impact adjacent property owners, nearby property owners, how it will add to the destruction of farmland, and the precious natural habitats which are nearby this project area. Other county officials and groups and our local state, House, and Senate representatives have been offered a similar chance to tour the location to see for themselves. Many of them have already taken the opportunity to visit the site or have scheduled to do so over the coming weeks. It takes about an hour to drive around the site. Yep, it's that large. I would be happy to arrange a drive around for any of you that would like to draw your own conclusions about the merits of this project with a first-hand view. I know the county council does not play a direct role in the BZA review process, but this is a county-wide issue where we must all become better informed about what a project like this would do to county infrastructure, to homeowners, to emergency responders and public safety, and the 800 residents in Tippecanoe County who make their living farming our lands and providing agricultural services. We know there are thousands of additional acres in this county being targeted by these out-of-state utility-scale solar companies for similar development. At the very least, a visit would help you during this very important conversation we are now going to have over the next few months regarding the necessary changes we need to make to utility-scale solar ordinances and create the right guardrails to protect ourselves from these facilities and their potential harm. At the same time, we will also be addressing a new challenge with putting ordinances in place for utility-scale solar and battery energy storage facilities, which are increasingly paired with these intermittent energy generating facilities. Battery energy storage facilities represent a new and growing public safety concern. I will follow up my personal invitation to you today with an email with my contact information. Or you can speak to me after the meeting that adjourns today if you'd like to set up a personal tour. Please take the opportunity to find out why nearly 1,000 Tippecanoe County residents have signed a petition opposing the Rainbow Trout Project and why it's so important for our county now to hit the pause button and consider what utility-scale solar should look like in Tippecanoe County. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right, next meeting, August 12th, budget hearings, August 26th and 27th. Take that last motion.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, thank you, everybody.
When's the budget, the preliminary budget?